Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to Jim Rickards, author of The New Case for Gold. Jim, welcome back to the Keiser Report.
Thank you, Max. Great to be with you.
So let's just get right into it. Jim Rickards, before we talk about the new arguments for gold, let's talk about the old arguments and put these to rest. These are, as you've described, this is somewhat of a manifesto, which can be used to jujitsu, all those paper bugs, as we call them. The first one being there's not enough gold. You write, the objection to gold based on mining output is not that it stands in the way of growth, but that it stands in the way of theft. Elaborate.
Correct. Well, first of all, when people say there's not the gold supply doesn't grow fast enough to support the world economy. So the world economy grows maybe 3–4% a year. Mining output is, say, 1.6% a year, which is approximately what it is. So obviously gold can't keep up. That's nonsense. It's completely irrelevant because it fails to distinguish between official gold, that's the gold held by central banks and finance ministries, and total gold, which includes all the watches and jewelry and all the other gold in private hands. So if central banks want to expand the money supply on a gold standard, all they have to do is buy private gold, print money and buy gold. It's just like, it's where they print money today. They print money and buy bonds. All you have to do is print money and buy gold.
Right, there's something like 30,000 tons in the central bank system.
30,000 tons approximately of official gold.
And there's 170,000 tons above ground.
So mining output is irrelevant to official gold. Just go buy some private gold. But it's a good example, Max, of these arguments. I call them robo-reflex responses, where if you say something good about gold, somebody says, oh, the gold supply doesn't grow fast enough. People don't know what they're talking about. They're talking about mining output, which is irrelevant for the reason we just mentioned. So in the introduction of the book, I just go through a list of these supposedly, killer arguments against gold. None of them hold water. They're either factually incorrect or analytically incorrect. I just shoot those down.
Let's talk about why people have those robo-arguments. I'm going to go off-piste now
Sure.
to deviate from the script, but there is a group of paper bugs. There's an entrenched mentality that supports the current system, and gold is an enemy of the current system.
Right.
Any challenge to the current system based on debt, based on money printing, is rejected as a point of survival, not as a point of good economics.
Correct. I would say the what you call the paper bugs or the anti-gold crowd, they fall into two categories. There are those who actually know better, who understand the arguments I make in the book, but they prefer the system as it is. The PhD economists, the central bankers. Look, if you had a monopoly on printing money, why would you want a gold standard? Why would you want to give up that much power? So Janet Yellen, Mario Draghi, Kuroda, the Bank of Japan, they control the money supply, and it's well known. If you control money, you control politics, you control behavior, you control a lot of other things. Why would you give up that power? Nobody gives up that kind of power voluntarily. So they actually know better, but they won't admit it. As for the vast majority of everyday citizens around the world, they accept these arguments at face value uncritically. I'm not disparaging people. I'm just saying that some people kind of don't know any better. They trust the elites. Others maybe not so trusting, but they don't think hard enough about it. But the point is, all these anti-gold arguments don't hold up.
Okay, let's talk about famous paper bugs. Here's Warren Buffett. He says he doesn't invest in gold because it has no yield.
It's not supposed to have a yield. It's money. Reach in your wallet, or woman reach in her purse, pull out a dollar bill or pound sterling and hold it up in front of you. Does it have a yield? No, it has no yield because it's money. And people say, well, I can get yield by putting it in the bank. Well, sure, but it's not money anymore. When you put your money in the bank, it's not money. It's an unsecured liability of an occasionally insolvent financial institution. I'm not saying pull your money out of the bank. I'm just saying understand what you're doing. It's not money anymore. You're taking the risk of the bank being solvent, or the bank not being closed, the regulators not shutting down the bank. You get a little bit of yield, a little bit of risk. You can get more yield by taking more risk. If you want yield, you take risk. Money doesn't have any risk. It's just money. Now, the risk is that people lose confidence in it. That's different. But gold's not supposed to have a yield.
The confidence of the entire global financial system rests on the U.S. dollar. Confidence in the dollar rests on the solvency of the Fed balance sheet, the Federal Reserve Bank, and that solvency rests on a sliver of gold. What's going on here?
Well, this goes back to a dinner I had with one of the members of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, and I had, my background, actually long before I got interested in gold, but my background was in the bond market, and I had actually taken the Fed's portfolio and marked it to market because if you buy bonds at 1.5% yield and interest rates go up to 2%, well, your bond is worth less on a mark-to-market basis. Just the bond prices move inversely to interest rates. So I marked the Fed's balance sheet to market using available information, and I found that they were insolvent from time to time, not all the time. And I thought, well, that's a striking thing. The Federal Reserve is an insolvent bank on a mark-to-market basis. So I asked this member of the Board of Governors, and she said, no, we're not. And I said, well, I think you are. And she goes, no one's done that math. I said, I've done it, and I think others have done it. And then she finally harumphed and said, well, maybe, but it doesn't matter. And her view was, it doesn't matter if a central bank is insolvent. I thought, well, maybe it does, and maybe that'll be a political issue at the end of the day. But then I had a separate conversation with a real Fed insider, and I talk about this guy in the book, handpicked by Ben Bernanke for certain tasks, and he was adamant that they were never insolvent, even if you mark the bonds to market. And I thought, well, and he wouldn't budge on that. I said, well, maybe I'm missing something. And I went back to the Fed balance sheet, and having spent all this time on the bond portfolio, I said, lo and behold, they have this gold certificate that they valued at $42 an ounce. So I divided the face value by the $42, came up with the ounces converted to tons, and lo and behold, it was 8,000 tons, which is about how much the Treasury has. And the Treasury got the gold from confiscating it from the Fed and giving them the certificate in exchange. So this told me two things. Number one, the Treasury can't sell any more gold because they need that amount to back up the certificate on the Fed balance sheet. And then if you take the Fed line item and mark it to market, it adds about $350 billion to the Fed's capital. Takes their leverage right now is 113 to 1. They look like a really bad hedge fund, down to 13 to 1, which is normal leverage for a bank. So the point is, the Fed's hidden asset is not in the bond portfolio, it's in the gold portfolio.
So this brings up, of course, this people are always asking, let's audit the Fed, let's audit Fort Knox.
Right.
Those questions are often asked.
Correct.
Is the gold there?
The gold is there. I have good reason to believe it's there. Now, there's a lot of confusion about this. Is some of the gold leased? Almost certainly. So I don't dispute the fact that the gold is leased out and that the leasing is a paper operation designed to suppress and manipulate the price. So not only do I agree with that, there's very good evidence that that's the case, and I talk about that in the book. So I do agree with that. But the physical gold is there. Look, if you had that much gold, why would you let it out of your sight? And you don't have to. The notion that, J.P. Morgan, through the BIS, Bank for International Settlements, leases Treasury gold, it doesn't mean that J.P. Morgan has to back up a truck and take the gold away. It can be done with rights of hypothecation and paper transactions. So is it leased? Is it used to suppress prices? Yes. But that doesn't mean it's not there, and I have good reason to believe it is there. Now, having said that, I do favor an audit. I'm not against the audit. Open the doors, bring in members of the press and members of Congress and some everyday Americans, and let them see the gold, and do a register and write down the bar numbers and weigh them. I'm all in favor of that.